And we are recording.
Okay.
And I mean that physically.
All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the Suamico Village Board meeting for Monday, March 2nd, 2026. The time is 6 p.m. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. And just a reminder to anyone who's speaking tonight, please speak directly into the microphone. Provide your name and address if possible. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the evening's agenda?
So moved.
Trustee Romas has offered a motion to approve the agenda, and I have a second on the end from Trustee Stevens. All right. With the agenda approved and motion seconded, all those in favor of approving the evening's agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? That motion, tonight we are 6, carries 6-0. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda this evening is public appearances. Public appearances is for anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak to an item not on the agenda. We ask you to provide your name and your address. Be aware that whatever you bring forward, it's for the board to listen to what is on your mind. And if there is an item, it could be referred back to staff for future review. Is there anyone here who wishes to come forward on an item not on the agenda? Asking once. Anyone wishing to come forward for an item not on the agenda?
We also aren't trying to intimidate you with all of the uniformed firefighters back there,
But don't anybody light a match? Okay, so there is no one here for public appearances, so we will move on to item number 6A. This evening, we have a presentation, a resolution 26004, a retirement resolution for Jerry Vandenplas. Mr. Vandenplas, if you'd like to come forward. And at this time, the board is going to remove themselves from the dais. We're going to step off, and we're going to turn it over to the firefighters. Gentlemen, ladies.
Resolution 26004, a resolution recognizing and honoring the retirement of Jerry Vandenplas for 26 years of dedicated service to the Suamico Fire Department. The Board of Trustees of the Village Board of Suamico do resolve as follows. Whereas Jerry Vandenplas faithfully began his service with the Suamico Fire Department on February 8th, 2000, and whereas during his 26 years of service, Jerry has demonstrated outstanding dedication, professionalism, and commitment to protecting the lives and property of the residents of Suamico. And whereas Jerry has served with distinction in numerous emergency responses, training, exercises, and community events, providing leadership, knowledge, and mentorship to fellow firefighters. And whereas Jerry, with his unwavering commitment to excellence and public safety, has earned him the respect and admiration of his peers, village officials, and the community he so diligently served. And whereas Jerry has chosen to retire from active service effective February 28th, 2026, leaving behind a legacy of courage, honor, and selfless service. And whereas the Village of Suamico, its fire department, and the community extend their deepest gratitude and best wishes to Jerry as he begins this new chapter in his life. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Village Board of Suamico, on behalf of citizens, formally recognizes and honors Jerry Vandenplas for his 26 years of dedicated service to the Suamico Fire Department and express sincere appreciation for his contributions to the safety and well-being for this community. Be it further resolved that this resolution be entered into the official record of the Village of Suamico and that a copy of this be presented to Jerry Vandenplas with gratitude and the best wishes for fulfilling and well-deserved retirement. Congratulations.
Firefighters, attention!
Present arms. Order arms.
I just want to say a few words. So first of all, I had no clue they were doing this. I say that because I think that shows the respect and gratitude they have for you, Jerry. Like I said, this is, I'll be on my back, no pun intended. But they wanted to do this for you. So just to let you know, I didn't plan this at all. But I think it speaks to the respect they have for you. So two little quick stories about Jerry. So Jerry told me about...
This is live on Facebook.
I promise I'll make it fast because I do like talking a lot. But so Jerry, for about 2 years, has probably been telling me that he's going to retire, and I kind of just every time he told me, I blew him off. I'm like, whatever. I just didn't even listen to him, to be honest. And finally, I think it was beginning of this year. He's like, February 28th. I'm like, okay, whatever, Jerry. I don't even listen to him half time he's in there or whatever. So, but he was dead serious. And a few years back, and I know why Jerry's retiring. So if his kids could come up here. So for you that don't know, about 2-3 years ago maybe, Jerry was cutting trees by one of his daughter's houses. And I knew he was cutting, I didn't know it was him, but we got a call for a male who got struck by a tree. And the only person in Moose Creek that would probably cut their own trees is Jerry Vandenplus. So we get there, and Jerry's in a chair with his scalp showing and everything else and talking. He's like, hey, Joe. I'm like, I don't know how you're still alive. I'm more or less talking. But I think sometimes life gives you that kind of aha moment, right? And the one thing that Jerry, for the last 2 years, has been talking about is his grandkids. Every day he comes in, and whether it's Sloan, I don't even know the kids' all names, but I know someone's dating some gambler guy or whatever it is. I hear about it all the time. Every morning, Jerry comes in and shares stories about what he did with his grandkids or his kids that weekend. So even today, Jerry showed up at the station and talked about his grandkids and his kids, today. So the reason Jerry is retiring is to spend more time with his grandkids and his kids. And he truly loves you guys and talks about you all the time. And sometimes, like I said, going back to that tree moment where he almost lost his life, life is very short, and you never know when that time is near the end. And Jerry wants to spend the rest of that time in retirement. He'll never retire because he'll always be at the fire department, I swear. But spend it with you guys, and that's why I think Jerry's retiring. So congrats to you guys, and I hope you can spend a ton of time with your grandpa because he talks about fishing and hunting with you guys all the time. So kudos to you, and thank you. Congrats, Jerry. So we're just going to present, promise we one more minute, a plaque and his badge, and then a little present for Jerry as well. So, Chrissy, want to join? So here's a plaque for Jerry for his 26 years of dedicated service to the village of Suamico. And his badge. I got it. Thank you, sir. So Jerry retired as assistant chief with the village of Suamico. All of it pretty here, but. We got Jerry. You can hold it up. Maybe you can hold it in there. A little blanket so you can remember us by. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
But you guys again. I'll let you pack that away. Thanks. Jerry actually came this morning, went through Station 2 to make sure the boilers were good, make sure the filters were good. So I'm like, Jerry's not going to leave us.
You guys can stay and finish the meeting if you
Say thanks to everybody for the great show. And we're like saying my family for 26 years of putting up with it. Because it's not easy. Always leaving. So, thank you. Thank you.
And then, Mr. President, if I could ask for a point of order, I need a motion and a second on the resolution.
Thank you for the reminder.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion from the board for the approval of Resolution 26004, a retirement resolution for Jerry Vanderplas? Is there a motion? I have a motion to approve from trustee Stevens. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from trustee Andrews. Any other further questions or discussion on this particular item? No? All right, all those in favor of approving the
take-
resolution 26004, we'll do a roll call on this.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee Romas.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Now we'll get back to some regular order. All right, presentations. Presentation 6B this evening is the Howard Suamico School District referendum. Superintendent Smith is here. If you'd like to come forward, you have the floor. Good to see you. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mark Smith, proud superintendent of the Howard Suamico School District and Village of Suamico resident. So thank you for the opportunity. I see that it's up on the screen and you received a information sheet that highlights the upcoming 2026 spring referendum for the school district of Howard Suamico. I'm joined here today with Josh Swanson, our Executive Director of Finance, and we have 3 board members who are also here as well, Amy Rubright, Greg Klimek, and Scott Jandrin. So thank you for the opportunity just to share a few highlights. I'm not going to go through all the details of the handout. I'm sure you had an opportunity to read it, but I'd just like to highlight that the school district has gone through a very comprehensive review process since I entered as superintendent to consider if and when we should move forward with a referendum. And that include over 133 listening sessions in my first year as superintendent. This is my second year. We also hosted a significant event in which we had 132 individuals for 12 hours talking about the future of our school district. And in addition to that, we hosted several pre-referendum engagement sessions. So we arrived at this through what we felt like was really dedicated community involvement, and we hope that the questions that are put forward represent the voices of our community. As you know, a referendum is simply bringing consideration to our voters in spring, and voters in both Howard and Suamico will ultimately respond to the questions. The 2 questions that you see in front of you and that will be on the spring general election, one, an operational referendum question. Our school district has passed 2 operational referendums in 2018 and 2021. This operational referendum question is intended to invest in the student programming, small class sizes, and staff compensation. If the question is approved, the district would be able to raise its revenue limit by $7 million for 7 years. We currently are under an operational referendum, so the first 2 years would enhance our existing $5 million operational referendum, totaling $7 million for 2 years, and then the next 5 years after that would be for $7 million. Question number 2 addresses our facilities referendum needs, and that dollar amount would be not to exceed $147 million to fund facilities improvements in 6 out of our 8 schools. The only 2 schools not addressed in this referendum are Bayview and Forest Glen, because those 2 schools received significant renovations in our 2021 facilities referendum. You can see a little bit more on that front side about some of the reasons as to why those 2 questions will be on the ballot. If you flip it to the second page or the back side, it just simply explains a little bit more detail about the proposed facilities updates. This handout certainly doesn't address all the details, but I would direct anybody to our website that has detailed schematics on what's happening at each of the schools with a level of detail and conceptual budget estimate. We've not moved forward with any specific architectural drawings. That's too presumptuous at this point, so these are all cost estimates around a conceptual budget forecast. And then the last thing on the handout addresses a tax rate neutral plan. When we surveyed the community, it was really critically important from what our taxpayers told us. Move forward with needs, not wants, address capital maintenance, focus on careers or trades, and continue to retain high-quality staff, and do it at a tax rate neutral approach. So we hope that that addresses what our community is looking for, and I'll pause and see if any of the trustees have any questions or anything you'd like us or any of the board members to expand on.
Questions? Anyone?
What type of trade stuff are you planning to work on?
Yeah, so Bayport High School is a comprehensive high school and offers career pathways or pathways within manufacturing, modern manufacturing, welding, woodworking, some computer engineering classes, also robotics. We also offer comprehensive programming in culinary arts, agri-science, and business education. Those are all of the different disciplines within what we call career and technical education. The reality is there's certain areas that we simply cannot offer classes to our students because we're out of space. Those areas are in small engine in particular, culinary arts, and agri-science. FFA, one of our fastest growing programs at Bayport High School. So that would be what the focus would go to. The specific area at Bayport High School will really be a renovation and an expansion to be able to add on and provide additional space for our students to meet those career areas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To what degree have you explored private funding? When you speak to manufacturers, and there's such a shortage, as we know, and those technical skills, can you help us understand a little bit about what strategies you use with private funding in local communities, businesses?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about how we're leveraging private partnerships and funding to contribute to educational programs, and then talk about how we envision continuing that if the referendum is passed, because I think there's a great opportunity there with partnerships, and our local employers have told us that. So when it comes to adding welding equipment, we know that there are industry partners that are willing to support us in that area. I think the best example of how we're currently partnering is with our youth apprenticeship or our work experience, where we've moved from, when I first started in the teacher and learning area about 6 years ago, we had 12 students that were doing youth apprenticeships out in industry, where they were leaving school and actually working and getting the trade experience in industry. We're now well over 100 students in that area. So that's one of the best examples of how we're partnering. And there's a number of examples. 5 Point Fabrication donates a lot of our metal to our welding program, so the kids have the experience. They host a youth apprenticeship student. So those are a number of examples. Russ continues to support us over at SMT, and we have a unique alternative program that's hosted over there, and there's a lot of those individual partnerships that we can talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Eckert?
That's an unbelievably large amount of money.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to me because as a village, we do so much with so little. Do you really need that much?
Yeah, we wouldn't bring it to the community if we didn't think that it was a need. We've really responded to community interest in what they've said was a need. So for example, at Bayport High School, our original plan had what was referred to as an activity space, not an indoor athletic facility. It was an activity space. One of our fastest growing after-school programs is our girls wrestling program. We're also seeing advances in our pom and dance and our cheer. And currently, a lot of times they practice in our commons area, our cafeteria area, because of space. But our community said that they wouldn't support that. We removed that from the scope of the projects. Instead, we focused on science classrooms because that's what the community responded to. The $147 million is a K through 12 facilities approach. It's also a continuation of our long-term facilities plan. In 2021, we moved forward with $98 million, but we left a lot on the table at that time, mainly Lineville and Meadowbrook. For those of you that were part of a task force or were involved at that time, those were the next two schools that the task force seriously considered adding, but there was a concern over sticker shock. And that decision was made to not move forward with those, and we capped the projects at $98 million. The other part I would just offer is we believe that the scope of these facilities projects address our needs for the foreseeable future. Now, we can't predict, something out of the norm, but this is our opportunity to really address the needs for what we believe are really the next 10 to 15 years.
Do you have plans in place to maintain these buildings, or are you going to ask for more money for that then, too?
No, this is all part of our plan within the operational expenditures that we have. There's certainly some enhancements to square footage, but nothing significant enough that we wouldn't be able to manage and maintain, like we've maintained our facilities, I think, to a pretty exceptional level, at this point as well. And just to be clear, the projects that may have been rumored to be part of the scope of this are not. There is no indoor athletic facility as part of this project. The use of adding a gymnasium, for example, at Meadowbrook, is a two-floor gymnasium. It's not an elaborate one. Forest Glen's gym was larger than a two-gym addition. We've really looked at what is essential and what is needed throughout the scope of the projects.
Other questions?
Just one quick question. So to educate me a little bit on the tax rate neutral approach. So that's a tax rate neutral. Does the actual amount of money that a home, say a home in 2023, $100,000 home, pays X amount of their taxes to the school, right? That same home in 2020, say 9, if this passes, the tax rate would be the same, but the actual amount would differ because the value of the home has gone up, right?
Yeah, that's certainly possible. That's why
Okay.
we've been really clear about it's a tax rate neutral.
The rate, clearly rate.
No guarantee that your taxes will not go up. We know that property values have certainly continued to rise in both villages. We've been really clear about not overpromising in that area. The board has done, I think, a very remarkable job of managing the tax rate. Reduced the tax rate the last 5 years, down from 919 to 769, 30-cent decrease from the previous year to this year. And I know that it's the board's mission to continue to be cognizant of that and the impact on our community members.
So would that rate then adjust, say the property values through the assessment were increased across the board? Does the school automatically decrease their rate then so that an individual is paying, say, $5,000 a year in their property taxes to the school? After that increase by an assessment, do you guys decrease the rate to keep it at that $5,000 or do you let that grow?
That was the approach the board took this last year with the 30
Which one?
cent decrease.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you are trying to push it down to
Offsetting
keep
the
the
property
actual
value increases
value
in
that
tax
people
rate.
write the check for, roughly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impossible to do on a per property basis. We have estimates for the both villages, but,
And in real time,
right.
I understand that. No, I'm just looking for what the district's mindset is, like how you approach things and,
Yeah. Trustee Romas, I just offer that, yes, that has been philosophically a discussion that's happened in public session, but each year, the school board has to set that tax rate. So, again, don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but certainly that has been a public discussion and certainly philosophically something that we're very cognizant of.
very good, thank you.
Just real quickly, too, I just want to mention, Alex worked pretty well with us last year, as well as Howard, in order for us to have good numbers, in order to keep that rate. If you read the news around the state, there's a lot of large increases. We did not see that at Howard Suamico this last year because we worked closely with Alex and Suamico to get an idea what the total valuation changed. And that's the easiest way to look at is total valuation of the community.
So you're trying to be proactive?
We're making this judgment call in September and October before this comes out, so we gotta work closely with
have another question is, if you were to prioritize this investment, do you have different buckets that you'd say, if I can't get all the funds through this referendum, which ones of these schools or investments have you prioritized as the highest importance to the community?
Yeah. Yeah, hard question to answer, but a fair one. I understand that. You know, we really have an opportunity through, I think, a responsible planning process to maintain our quality of learning experiences for our students district-wide. It'd be really hard for me to choose one over the other. I think the challenge that we face in our district isn't as much about a district-wide enrollment concern, but a building level capacity constraint. Meadowbrook, Lineville, Howard, those schools have functional capacity constraints, okay? Suamico isn't dealing with that yet. Bay Harbor isn't dealing with that. Forest Glen just got recently renovated, right? We addressed Bayview. So to me, those three schools that are on there, Howard, Meadowbrook, and Lineville, we're not able to deliver the learning experiences that we want for our students. Secondly, I would say our community, and I think it's a great expectation, expects us to prepare our students for careers and trades. And I think that that is an extremely high priority.
So I've got a question. Actually, two questions. So the first question is, should this pass, if this passes, will there be a continued activity at the state level to work with our legislators at the state level to get some sort of parity of funding? Because really, quite frankly, the reason we're in the situation we're in is because when I was doing some research on this and looking this over, per capita, per pupil spending on a national basis has increased typically on average throughout the United States at 4% year over year. So educational budgets on average, 4% year over year. State of Wisconsin since 2020 has an overall average decrease of 0.08%. So, I mean, the difference is somewhat shocking. And then if you take into consideration, just simple, cost of living expense, 3% increase year over year, and we actually saw 8% for a period of time. So spending on education hasn't kept up even with inflationary costs. I had one number that I cited. In 1993, if you spent $100 on goods and services, the equivalent that you need today is $224. So that's a long period of time. But since 2020, for that expense not to continue, or for that funding not to be coming from the state level, and this is my point, if this referendum passes, in a way, it's a patch, unless we continue the pressure at the state level to have some parity in funding, at least with the rest of the United States. Wisconsin was 11th, right, at one time, 11th in per pupil spending, and that was just a few short years ago. And now we're 26?
Yeah.
Yet we're supposedly educationally focused. Schools are a great resource, and they're a resource for the future. And I guess as you're here today, I appreciate your plan. I appreciate the numbers. I appreciate the diligence that you're going through to presenting this, to the community. There's been a lot of back and forth, and not all of it correct, or really information, facts, and data based, as we like to say sometimes. So I hope that this moves forward. I hope that pressure on the state level continues, because otherwise this is just a patch. We're going to be in this situation again, and I don't want to be here again.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you don't.
Yeah.
None of us do.
Just to highlight, and love to defer to our board, they have an upcoming legislative community conversation, March 9th, with our representatives, and we'll continue to have those conversations and advocate at the state level. Anything else from your perspective?
Yeah, I think our approach this year is going to be a little bit more firm. Unfortunately, we keep re-electing the same leaders in the state that don't support public education. And because they seem to be at odds over points with the 400-year deal that Evers passed last year, which doesn't make sense. But, they can't get past the fact that this 30-plus-year-old funding
That answered my second question, too. The percentage of budgeted versus what the state gave us. That's all I had. Thank you. Appreciate it all. Anybody else? Last chance. Thank you for your time. Thank you for you all coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Okay. So we are on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, item number 7 this evening, consists of previous minutes of the village board dated February 16th, 2026, and item 7B, the January 2026 fire report. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
And second.
Thank you. Trustee Eckert has offered a motion to approve the consent agenda. That has been seconded by Trustee Romas. Last chance. Any further discussion, questions? Nothing. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as motioned and seconded, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? That motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Moving on, item 8A is the Wisconsin Humane Society Animal Shelter Service Agreement. Administrator Kaker, if you would.
Thank you. So the Wisconsin Humane Society currently supports our animal control program by, amongst other programs, taking custody of abandoned, stray, unlicensed, and impounded animals. The current agreement was executed in May of 2020 with an annual cost of $885 with a 3% annual increase. In 2025, the village paid the Humane Society $996. The association is seeking an updated agreement, which is included in your packet, with an annual payment of $1,250 in 2026, plus an annual 3% increase. The proposed agreement would run for 2 years with 2 additional 1-year renewal terms, and all other terms within the proposal do appear to be unchanged from the 2020 agreement. I did reach out to our animal control officer, Matt Atkinson, asked if he was satisfied with the service that he's been getting from the Humane Society, and he said he is. I also asked if there were any other organizations or any other options for us, and he said there really isn't. There was a community in Brown County that tried to use a local vet for this type of service, and in his word was a disaster. So there's really not anybody else that we can go to for the service. If we're gonna provide this to our community, the Wisconsin Humane Society is kind of your only option. So that is the agreement before you tonight. Any questions?
And you said the only change is the $1,250 now?
Correct.
And the terms, like 2-year?
Yeah, it'd be for 2 years, and then there's 2 additional 1-year renewals if we don't choose to sever the agreement.
Seems like they're the only show in town, unless somebody here is willing to start putting up animals, strays, at home. I already have to, so.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the Animal Shelter Services Agreement with the Wisconsin Humane Society.
Trustee Andrews has offered a motion to approve the agreement with the Humane Society of the Wisconsin Humane Society. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Trustee Neto on this motion. Motion has been made to approve and has been seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee Romas.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Okay. We are off to item 8B, which is Mink Ranch Road property usage. Administrator Kaker.
Thank you. So I put together a memo with the assistance of staff to do an analysis of the Mink Ranch Road property. In particular, the building where we hold the recreation class, the stained glass class. I would expect the board has seen that memo, and so I won't go through it line by line, but I do believe that we have a good plan moving forward through 2029 that would ensure that we have sufficient funding coming in to pay for all future maintenance items. We as staff wouldn't need a motion from the board unless there is a desire from the village board to go in a different direction. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have on it.
I think the new plan is good. I've been frustrated ever since 2017 because the sewer utility customers were literally paying this place to be there. And they made it a little better 2 years later, and then a little bit better 3 years later. And then it just became a wash in 2022. But up until that time, sewer utility customers were literally paying this business to be there. And as government, we shouldn't be picking and choosing winners, nor should our sewer utility customers have to pay for this. So I think what you have proposed here is pretty good.
I'll take the last sentence there. Thanks.
Is there any activity there going on at this facility that is directly related to the utility?
Within that building?
Within the building, the grounds?
Well, there's two questions there. So both would be yes. So that property has a lift station that the sanitary sewer district needs. And then there's components within that building that that lift station utilizes. So the building is necessary for the sewer utility.
So the building is necessary to the sewer utility, so it's technically, it's not even technically, it's an asset of the sewer utility.
Correct.
And and how much does the sewer utility pay to support that asset?
What do you mean?
So the building itself and the equipment inside are assets of the sewer utility. There's equipment in there that the sewer utility needs to function. A lift station and other equipment. So who pays for that equipment?
It would be the sewer utility customers.
Just the sewer utility customer?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess my point being is that building, if there was no stained glass class there, if we wanted to just get rid of that building, we couldn't legitimately get rid of that building. The cost of that building and the cost of the equipment in that building to support the utility would be fully borne by those within the utility. So the fact that you have a stained glass class in there that's bringing in some amount of income, not to mention, being utilized by citizens in the community and bringing folks into the village of Suamico, is to some degree supporting the cost of that equipment for the sewer utility. Is that correct?
You could make that argument.
Well,
You
that's one
could, but
argument.
not necessarily. How much did the sewer utility customers pay to have that business there? Because that was not right. We're slowly starting to make right with it, but the sewer utility customers alone were paying that business to be there. And that's not right. It's frustrated me for many, many years now. And I'm glad that this is finally working itself out. But how much did those sewer utility customers pay?
It would be impossible for me to answer that question at this time. I mean, you're talking less than a couple thousand at most.
Really?
You're talking only about the utilities that didn't cover the entire amount of utilities, correct?
The WPS bills are very high.
Which
And
has
at
been
first,
covered,
there was
which has
no
been covered
rent.
by the cost of the instructor, correct?
There
believe
was no
so.
rent paid at first. The utility bills were high. And once the rent was starting to be paid, some of the excess was still paid by the sewer utility customers. Finally, we're getting to the point where we're better than awash. Just very frustrated. I think Paul had,
Do we have to open it up for public comment
I
on this?
make a motion to open.
Second.
So we have a motion to open it up for public comment from trustee Eckert, seconded by trustee Romas. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. The floor is yours.
Paul Garvey, 1203 Bay Breeze Court. I'm sorry, I'm not a very good extemporaneous speaker, so I wrote down a few of my thoughts.
Seems like you're doing pretty good.
I do have a history with that building. I was the Suamico Sanitary District President for 4 years, and the sanitary district dissolved once we became a village. And I also had the opportunity to serve on the first elected village board, and I think it was during your first term was my last, so we shared that stage a little bit. But anyway, to go back to the history of this building, it was back in the early 1980s when there was a lot of failing private wastewater systems in Suamico, and the DNR came in and said, okay, well, this is a problem. We have to, we have high water table out here, and we have to protect our groundwater resource. So guess what? The township needs to build a treatment plant. And so that went along for 20 years, and it grew organically, and, all the sewage wastewater lines went to the treatment plant. And the village, as you know, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we became a village in the early 2000s, and it was at that point when the DNR told us, well, you either have to expand that treatment plant or you need to go to a regional system. So after a long study and lots of meetings and evaluations, the village decided that it would be more cost-effective to go to a regional system, which is, through the VELP interceptor and onto the Met. Well, unfortunately, the sewage lines can't take a 90-degree turn and then start heading toward VELP Avenue. They're already in the ground. So that's a very important structure that we have there, because it's a gigantic lift station, basically what it is. So everything in that portion of the town goes to that area. So we can never sell that, and we have to save that building. So, the discussion is, is the former utility building, but, I guess, I'd like to revisit that discussion about costs and the fact that it's now a stained glass class, and specifically in light of the actual participation numbers in that class, which is kind of important to the village in a lot of different ways. But the program is currently serving 72 students each week, and each student pays $75 for a 6-week course, and those go year-round, and they're always sold out. And that generates probably, in my crude math, $35,000 to $40,000 a year in gross program revenue. Now, that's not a small or casual program. I don't know how that $40,000 is spread out amongst the village or whatever, but that's not a small program. And that's sustained, reoccurring activity operating nearly year-round in a village of 13,000 people. Now, let's talk about cost, because that's the board's concern, and appropriately so. It would appear that it seems like it's operating at a small deficit. I think I heard the number $2,000 maybe a year that they're subsidizing it.
No.
More than that.
No, I think Trustee Ecker was referring to between 2019 and 2022. At some point, the utilities were costing more per month than the $500 that we were charging rent.
My beef wasn't with the class itself, it was the fact that the sewer customers only were paying
Yeah.
for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about value
Yeah.
of it, okay? Like I said before, it's about $40,000 in direct program revenue. And then there's also the economic activity generated outside of the building. Now, I've met some people in that class. I've met a woman last week that drives from Oshkosh And I know another one that drives from Manitowoc and one that drives from Stiles. And, you know, even if half of those 72 students spend $20, $30 on class day on gas, coffee, lunch, dinner, shopping a little bit, you know, the annual local economic circulation could easily exceed $50,000 to $70,000. And that's reoccurring foot traffic. And that is happening in a building that the village already owns. So, you know, if for some reason the program ends and that activity stops, the building costs don't stop. We still insure it, we still maintain it, we still heat it at minimum levels. And we all know vacant buildings deteriorate a lot faster than occupied buildings. So the question, it shouldn't be, does this operate like a private business should be operating? The question should be, is this a productive use of a public asset that generates economic and community return? You know, with 72 participants at roughly $40,000 revenue flowing through the program annually, it clearly qualifies as active and impactful. Now, if fiscal oversight is the priority, I support that. That's responsible governance, and it looks like you're doing your due diligence. But if the program gets eliminated because it doesn't meet the strict break-even threshold, that may result in a greater net loss, both financially and strategically. Communities of our size, they compete for residents, they compete for retirees, they compete for small business growth, and activity matters. Visible engagement matters. I first learned about that class by seeing it on Channel 5, and I think it's a real feather in the cap of the community. As an active arts facility, contributes to the identity and the vitality of the village in ways that vacant space does not. So when we step back and evaluate the total picture, participation, revenue, outside spending, village asset activation, the program looks far more like an investment than a liability. So I encourage the board to view it through that broader lens. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, I got a quick question for you, if you don't mind. First of all, I agree with just about everything you said. I think the reason that we were, at least that from my perspective, just wondering about all this stuff now is because there's a roof replacement. And we have to ask ourselves the question, do we spend the money on the roof or do we demolish the building? I mean, that's the basic question, right? To your point on the fiscal responsibility. So one of the things I'm trying to figure out is that there's currently equipment in the main building where the glasses are, that's mandatory to be there. In other words, if we were to take a bulldozer, bulldoze that building over, then our whole sanitary district would go kerplunk. Or is it, no, actually, Mike, the lift stations are down planned
You have
south.
to have something there.
Yeah, okay, you'd have to have something of some size. Okay. But it's already
But
built.
let's look at it, let's look at other opportunities. You have a big machine shed out there.
Mm-hmm.
You have a fenced-in yard. Now, I'm just thinking out loud, but this is up to you guys. But, you know, what about RV storage or parking campers or something inside the fence to kind of subsidize? There's a lot of different things. You know, you can get more creative rather than depending at all on the stained glass class
Sure.
to produce the revenue that you need for that. But let's think outside the box with that. That's all I ask.
Exactly. We just need to figure out what that box is first
Right.
before we can think outside of it. Yep.
Okay, I just want
Thank you.
to add one more thing, just kind of a point of clarification. I think what we're really assessing here is fair market value.
Well, can I close this so I can put in my 2 cents?
Okay. I'll give her a nickel at the end, okay? It's really to make sure that the rent that's being paid is fair so that we're not creating preferential treatment.
Right.
And I think that what triggered this whole conversation was, got to make a $35,000 investment in a roof. And should we not take a look at this? And I think Alex has done a nice job in just helping us understand what the market value would be. So
Paul, do you have any more?
No.
I'm going to close this.
Motion to close? I'll second.
Okay.
So there's a motion to close the public discussion, if there's no one else to speak. So that motion was made to close public discussion by trustee Eckert, and it was seconded by trustee Romas. Okay. Any other further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing public comment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Okay,
opposed.
it was never on the table to demolish it.
Oh, no, okay. No, and, okay, wait, I want to clarify, that was.
That
what-
was never on the
That was what I
table.
was thinking,
And-
right? So I think like an engineer. So it's either 0 or infinity.
I'm
So-
thinking like a sewer customer.
Yeah.
And the sewer customer was footing the bill, and everybody else was seeing the profits. And that's what doesn't seem to be entering the picture at all. And that frustrated me.
And I think the first, from staff perspective, at least my perspective, the number one use for this is related to the recreation program. Is she also running her business out of it? Yes, I consider that secondary to the recreation program. If you were to go out and try and lease this out to another entity, I think you would run into zoning issues because now you're going to run strictly a business. I can support it as part of our recreation program. It fits in the public lands and institutions. And if she's doing part-time business as accessory to that, it doesn't give me heartburn. If you were to bring in a CPA firm or something to put in that building, and it's strictly just making a profit for itself and not really providing any benefit to village operations, it would become a zoning concern. So, yes, it'd be great to get the fair market rent for it, but we're in a location that I don't think will allow that. So, keep that in mind too.
Sewer customers need, you need to maintain your building. We're not going to destroy it, of course. I don't have a problem with it being in there, but again, I'm going to say, sewer customers are paying all the bills, and someone else is getting the profits. It's not fair to the sewer company, the sewer customers. But what you're proposing here is, so we don't really have an issue.
So we don't have an issue.
Well, until we get to who's going to pay for that roof. But that's,
And I no longer want to knock the building down, so we're good.
no,
Okay,
that
are we-
was never on the table.
Are we completed with this? So this has been a discussion of the Mink Ranch Road property, the usage of it. Is there other comments? There's no action necessary. Are we done with this particular item as far as the discussion portion, or we can move on to discussion of the roof replacement?
I'm done. We can move
Everyone?
on.
I think
Want to make sure everybody
Move
has
on.
had their chance? Okay, good. So then we'll move on to item C, which is the Mink Ranch roof replacement. Minister Kaker, please.
Thank you. So this is just a revisit of the conversation we had with the village board back on February 2nd. I believe you're all well aware of what's up for discussion. Do you need me to go into any more detail, or are you guys ready to just have a conversation about it?
there are no choices. This is a preventative and predictive maintenance for this, the way I look at it. So if we decide, which we're not, going to remove the building, we wouldn't do this. But we have no other choice but to do this to prevent the building from deteriorating.
But, and I see going forward that the sewer utility does all the maintenance and covers all the maintenance. But with this roof, can we get half of that taken care of? Can we get it taken care of this time? A contingency fund? Come on, give the sewer customers a break here. They're paying the bills. They're paying bills that they shouldn't have been paying.
They're
But yes, take care of our building, of course. But give us a break on this one thing. And going forward, the sewer utility will cover it, they will take care of it, but we're also getting fair compensation to put that in place. Can we take it, a part of it from another fund?
Like Park and Recs, you're thinking?
Yeah. I mean, are they seeing some of the profits? Can't we split this one with them?
Is it the purpose, right?
The village board can act however they choose.
Legally?
Legally, you can, yep.
Woo!
I would throw out there, trustee Eckert, that regardless if there is a recreation class in there or not, the roof would need replacement. And the building is needed for the sewer utility.
That
So any
is-
revenue that it's
that's what it
generated
does
is
come
just a
down to.
bonus.
But some of those funds, the sewer customers were paying for, that could have now went toward that roof.
And I'm just not sure that it's that much. So we're really talking between 2019 and 2022.
2017 and 2022?
Well, we're going way back in time, but again, it is the sewer utilities building. The sewer utility needs it. The recreation class didn't deteriorate the roof. But it's the village board's decision on where to spend those funds.
So if we did not need this building, if the sewer and water utility did not need this building, we would not put a new roof on it.
That would be a totally different discussion, because it depends on what you need on the parcel itself, and how would you create a new parcel, and
Who knows?
what would you put in that parcel?
We could sell it, we could sell it for $1 and have somebody demolish it and make it into a dog park. They were back to demolish. But my point being, I don't get this. I mean, and you're gonna, I don't, this building is needed for the sewer and water utility.
Just the
And-
sewer utility.
Sorry, the sewer utility. And just by happenstance, we just happen to have an organization who is willing to pay us something that we wouldn't, I mean, they could pull up tomorrow and say, no more, we're not going to do stained glass anymore, and they could leave. And we would still have to pay the cost of the roof, and we would still have to pay for the heat, as Mr. Garvey had pointed out. We'd still have to pay for this building, and in all likelihood, it would deteriorate even more quickly. But we have someone in that building who's offsetting that expense, maybe not entirely, and hasn't been doing it entirely, but is offsetting that expense. But we are stuck with that building one way or another, and we are stuck putting a roof on it one way or another. And just, by happenstance, we happen to have some costs getting offset. Now, if what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, Park and Rec, this is your program that's in there, let's take money from Park and Rec. How does, the sewer utility folks are going to say, that's great, we don't care where the money comes from, you're going to help pay it off, or maybe they will care. But there's a lot of folks in Suamico who are going to say, we're going to take it from Park and Rec, which is already underfunded, and you're going to pay, to offset a building that we don't need, except for the fact that it houses, equipment essential, to maintain the sewer areas. I don't know how that plays. How does that play? So what happens, take the reverse, right?
The rent was never offset. The rent went toward utilities incurred by the business that weren't fully covered until a little while ago, which made it a wash. There was never money offset. If the money was paid, that was from the utility customers.
We had to pay for the building no matter what, whether there was stained glass in there or not.
But there was more utilities being used because of the occupants.
People being in there,
Yeah,
okay.
but that was never offset. Right now, as it stands today, it's a wash. What he's proposing will be offset, but it hasn't been offset at all in its history at this point.
But that building would have been in place had the stained glass class not been in there at all.
Yeah, but the sewer utility footed the bill for some things that could have went toward the roof.
I think I see Go ahead, Phil.
That's all. I've said it.
Trustee Andrews had something,
For
and
sure,
then
for sure.
trustee Rome.
So
I've set it up for a little bit.
I have a thought. Can we, the 311105 that you're talking about taking out of contingency, because it is, can't we use some stadium district money for that? For that $3,111?
The stadium district money is meant for only economic development purposes. If you believe that it's an economic development generator, then you could, but you also have to pass a separate resolution to use that stadium district funds, which we did not have prepared for tonight.
And that 3111 is 10% of the estimate to replace that roof. That's for in case there's an overrun, if they find bad plywood or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
That's not, if that costs, if they, all they have to do is replace shingles, there's no bad structure underneath in any locations, that bill is going to be the 31,110. That contingency is a 10% overrun in case they find bad materials in certain areas and have to actually do some additional work beyond their bid.
So it might not even
I
be
wouldn't
all
you-
of that.
I wasn't talking 3,000, but
Well, if I can, I think I understand.
Are you done? Are you done?
If you only,
Well, I guess I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't be considered economic development, because we had given the Historical Society some money out of Stadium District money for a roof, and I'm not sure how that impacts.
I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean-
saying the board would have to deem it an economic development.
Right, we would have to
Reason.
draft a resolution.
Right,
I understand
right.
that. It's a thought for that one,
cool.
for that part of it,
For the,
for the 3,000. So if
for
there's,
3,000?
Okay,
if there's an overture.
I'm just going to say, I'm in support of what trustee Andrews is saying, because as I was thinking about it, like the thing you're grappling with, and what trustee Ecker was saying is, it's not a question necessarily of where it comes from, it's what the purpose is, right? So the issue is that there's some money that's sort of owed to the sewer group, right? That's the question. There's money owed. We've got a lot of funds in this village. I mean, we build roads to develop for economic development. We do all sorts of things all the time to improve economic development in our village. So to your point, I completely agree, trustee Andrews, that there should be a chunk of money that we can take from some place, just as though we were going to invest money into something that would bring people into the community. Because the argument has been made by,
Coming from Stiles.
yeah, from Paul, right, that there's money brought into the community because of this program. So I think that's the thing I was grappling with. I said Parks and Recs just as I was looking over at Nick.
The budget's tapped out.
But realistically, it can just be really,
That's what everybody
you know,
says.
any budget that supports, to trustee Andrews' very valid point, economic.
I think it's an awesome idea, but more than $3,000.
You want 5? I'll support 5.
I want 15.
We'll just put 5 at it.
Half of it.
I'd support 7,500.
I mean, so,
If we're gonna get that precise, then do the math. In my mind, I'm just not gonna randomly say it's 3, it's 5, it's 7,500. Tell me what the losses were, to your point, that you felt as though that the sewer district was subsidizing this park and rec department. Tell me what the number is, and then I'll agree to that, but otherwise I'm not going to.
Well, you'd have to go back to the utility
We'll have
bills.
to go back then, so we got to start digging then.
Is that going to cost that much money, though, to figure that out?
I don't know, but I'm not gonna support just random numbers,
Well,
so.
it's not, when you think random, if I may,
Well, they're not calculated.
I know, but it's, the concept is no longer, like, trustee Eckert's argument was a debt is owed. To your point, if a debt is owed, it should equal.
I'm agreeing with you,
Right.
yes.
What I'm hearing trustee Andrews say, and I'm agreeing with, and if I put words in your mouth, you tell me that I'm wrong, is that this is also an economic development exercise. So just like we might invest money in a brown field to make it better, or we might put in new roads so the roads help the community grow, this is an economic development. So therefore, it becomes an uncalculable, I think, number. I don't know how you calculate, I mean, you could make the exercise of, if an average 72 people come in and they spend $100 a week, you know, you guess you could do that math and figure out how that benefits the buildings. But that's why I'm saying that there's this bucket that we don't, that we're going to have to more or less estimate. That's,
No, I'm supportive of what everybody's saying, that we should, it is economic development. I'm just trying to understand is there was a point, to trustee Eckert's point, this thing was underwater, meaning that the sewer district was paying more to support this business. Whatever that number is, they should earn it back. So I don't know what that number is, and if somebody has some more engineered piece that I would feel more comfortable saying that that's the portion that they
But would it be worth doing all that digging? you
Well,
know?
let me just chime in for a second. So what you're really asking for potentially would be, go back to 2017, figure out what the average utility bill was before stained glass class was in it, then figure out what stained glass class increased that bill by. But then each year, WPS rates go up, so you got to figure out what that delta is. And you want that for every month between 2017 and 2019. Then you've got to look in 2019 through 2022 each month. She was paying $500 per month. So how much were utilities then? If they were less than 500, that's really paying the sewer utility more than what was necessary, correct? And then at what point did it start costing the utilities more than $500 per month? And then again, there needs to be some baseline.
That would be a
It just
lot of
seems
work.
kind of unreasonable that we would go through that lengthy of a process for maybe a couple $1,000,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I agree.
So it's not 15,000, then it's 2,000. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Not necessarily,
You just said a couple.
not necessarily.
Okay, well then,
2,000?
that's what you just said.
I mean, unless I go through that exercise, it's really hard to say. But I can't imagine that the utilities back in 2017, the increase because of the stained glass class, which, Angie, I'm not sure how many classes you had in there back in 2017, but it probably wasn't near the extent that it is today. Like, how much are we really talking? It can't be that much, in my opinion.
Utilities in 2019, though, at $500 a month is $6,000 a year. So in August, you're not going to be paying $500 a month for utilities, right? It's, my
There's
point
going to be a
being,
baseline.
my point being, it's
Probably
6,000.
because of the nature of the business, those did seem to be high, the WPS bills.
Well, that building was poor,
Well,
poor for
It's a
heat.
large building, though,
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's a lot of space to heat.
So my
Regardless.
point being, so you have, in 2017, you have $6,000 being paid in utilities. You have students that are coming in now, 72 students every 6 weeks, roughly. That's $46,800 a year, right there as well. So that's $46,800 that would not be there. All right, so here's my point. If utilities are cost $6,000 a month, and you're bringing in $46,800 a year in actual revenues for individuals coming in, it seems like there's, that's like $40,800 that's being brought in after utilities are paid for.
but different people are paying the bills and different people are receiving the benefits.
and you also, that fee probably includes materials, I'm guessing.
It's $40,800 that would not be coming in if that stained glass class was not in that building. And that's not taking into account the economic piece of it, which is the tank of gas that each one of these people from Stiles, wherever, fills up when they're here. I get trustee Andrews, I think, as I think about it a little bit more, stadium district funds, economic development, you're bringing in 72 people, they're buying gas, they're buying food, that was all pointed out by Mr. Garvey accurately. So there is an economic development piece of it. Plus, you're providing a service to anyone in Suamico who partakes of that class. So I can see that there's a portion of the stadium district funds that could be used. Is it, if the assumption is that the roof is $31,500 and $15,000 should come out of some other fund to cover that, then in essence, what you're saying is that half the utilities, it's like translating into, are half the utilities, the full responsibility of the stained glass class? I don't know. I guess I like the idea of reimbursement. If you're going to talk about reimbursement, then let's talk about reimbursement. And maybe it is hard to get there, and maybe it is awkward to get there. But to throw some, willy-nilly number out there, I don't know that I could support that either. I mean, tell me what the number is. If it is $15,000, then let's pay $15,000. But I need to be able to walk out this door, and when somebody asks me, hey, how come you paid $15,000, to cover the building that's used for sewer equipment? I'm not on sewer equipment. Why do I want that building? I want to be able to explain to somebody what that is. And I can explain to them that it houses a class that people utilize, and it brings in $46,800, into the village. How do I explain to them that we spent $15,000? What's the basis for that?
So, I mean, do you not want to reimburse them? Because we can't possibly ask them to go back in time and look for that. That's ridiculous. Or do you want to, like, Mike said 7,500. That would be okay with me, too.
And I look at it, so when someone were to ask me, why did you spend $7,500 on a roof? I'd be like, well, we spent $31,110.54 on a roof. The $7,500 came out of another budget because there's definite benefits to the village of Suamico for having this class that's above and beyond the sewer. Just like, why did you spend $1 million on roads this year? Well, I ride a bicycle, or I walk, I don't need a road. Well, but as a village, we have roads. You can look at 1,000 different things.
The whole village benefits from us having a sewer utility.
Right. Yeah,
But very oftentimes,
but not
we're the
everyone's-
ones that are paying for it.
Right, so to your exact point, the whole village benefits by us having a sewer utility, even though there are many people in the village who are not on the sewer. The whole village benefits from the village having a fire department, even though not everyone has a fire. The whole village benefits by us having the stained glass being provided, even though everyone doesn't use the stained glass. It's the same, to me, it's the same logic. That's why I can support taking money from one fund and putting it into this one as an economic development. I rest my case.
So all we have left is really, if we can support that line of thinking, then we just have a number. And so I would support what you just said. I do believe that this is economic development. I understand trustee Andrews' logic, and I would support that.
I think that was a very good point that he brought up.
So now we just have to approve tonight, I believe, the $31,110.54 to do the roof. We need to approve that. Where the money comes from, we can decide that.
We should be able to backfill.
So I'm back to making a recommendation to approve awarding the Mink Ranch building roof replacement and with Overhead Solutions for $31,110.54, along with a $3,111.05 contingency using funds from the unknown.
So that was, so could you, are you suggesting a motion or making a motion?
I'm making it.
Okay, could I ask that for maybe a slight change to that motion? Could you, the motion as you stated, but also, and direct staff to identify fees not to exceed $7,500 from the stadium fund
Yep.
to potentially help offset the $31,500.
So,
Does it make sense? Go ahead.
don't mean to interject, but the Stadium District Fund currently has $49,000 in unassigned funds in it, so it is capable of doing that. I would suggest, just from a transparency perspective and auditing perspective, to delineate where you want that money coming from within this motion. And if that's $7,500 coming from the Stadium District Fund, we'll come back at the next meeting with a resolution in the consent agenda to confirm that. And then just identifying, or should I be assuming that the 3,100 contingency, is that coming out of the Stadium District bucket, or is that coming out of the sewer bucket? That'd be the only other question. Not to prolong this conversation, but it needs to be had.
So the 31,110 in the contingency fund to be coming out of the sewer utility and $7,500 to be designated, we have to change those amounts then, don't we?
I would just say something like $7,500 from the Stadium District Fund and the balance coming from the sewer fund.
That's well said.
Okay, do you want to give it a, do we have that, or do we want to rephrase that?
Whatever you just said.
Okay, let me see if I can get it. So there's a motion on the floor from trustee, are we done? Do we have, is there
Yeah,
additional
no,
discussion?
that's good.
So there's a motion on the floor from trustee Stevens, a motion to approve the awarding of the Mink Ranch building roof replacement to Overhead Solutions. Do I have to go through the numbers on this?
You would add the
Sorry, solutions for $31,110.54, along with $3,111.05 contingency funds using funds from the sewer utility. In addition, an additional $7,500 to be designated to be used from the Stadium District Fund.
Well put. Second.
We can work with that.
That
Thank
was
you.
Perfectly put.
Let's adjourn first. Did you want to say, is that a second?
I just.
So I have a
seconded
second from trustee Romas on that motion. All right, let's do a roll call.
All right. Trustee Neto.
Aye.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Stevens.
Aye.
Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Eckert.
Aye.
President Van Rossum.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
well done.
All right, thanks, everybody. Good discussion.
Good discussion.
It was a.
All right, moving on. Item number 9 this evening is discussion on future agenda items.
I have one I'd like to just put out there. We have a new street sweeper that has made its way to our village. And,
Haven't seen it.
yeah, and I would like to discuss the idea of opening up a contest to the local middle schools and maybe grade schools to name this thing. And that we would work with local businesses to create some type of logo that would match the name that we can put on this machine as it makes its way around our village. So I'd like everybody to think about it, and I'd like to put that on the agenda to talk about the do's and don'ts of that.
Can you put that on the next agenda for us to discuss? That's great.
I'll second it. You
Yeah.
did,
Thank you. So we've got 2.
Oh,
Put that
okay,
on.
I'm sorry.
No, we've got 2. We needed 2 to get it on the next agenda. We've got 1 and we've got 2. Anyone else? Future agenda items? All right, hearing none, I'd look for a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Trustee Andrews has offered a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. Is there a second? I'll second it. So a second to adjourn this meeting. Did I miss something?
No. No, if you wouldn't have seconded it, I wonder how long it would have taken.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning this evening's meeting of the Suamico Village Board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
No.